because I'm assigned to too many Jumas and I don't like being inconsistent in things. So what we're planning on doing, inshallah, is we're going to make one evening a month for open Q&A, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll be announcing that soon. So, unfortunately, the pre-Jum'ah Q&As, I'll have to stop because of the inconsistency for me and me being assigned to different Jum'ahs in different places. But inshallah, going forward, bi-idhnillah, today will be the last one. But going forward, bi-idhnillah, we will have an evening program. So for those of you that want to join either the live stream or to submit your questions, that option, inshallah, will still be open for you. I want to improve my Arabic by listening to Arabic lectures, but I don't want to take Islamic knowledge from any random speakers on YouTube. Can you please share some names? So I think there are a number of parts to this question, and the first of them is how to learn the Arabic language. And I think that's a very important question that many of us and many of our youth, and some of us maybe who are a little bit older, face that, okay, well, how do I learn Arabic? What is the first step? What is it that I want to do? I think the first thing to do is to define the scope. Many of us, when we say we want to learn Arabic, I think what we actually mean is I want to understand what is being recited when the Quran is being recited. And if my goal is to understand the recitation, then the vocabulary becomes much smaller than all of Arabic, right? So not all of Arabic is in the Quran, right? There are more words that are outside of the Quran. There are more structures that are outside of the Quran. There are more ideas that are outside of the Quran than in the Quran itself. The Quran has very limited vocabulary. Much of that vocabulary is repeated. Some of the vocabulary are names and places. So I think when you think about it in that way, it becomes much easier to digest a lot of the concepts and a lot of the terms that are presented in the Quran as a whole. There are a number of books around this concept. It's called like 80% of the Quran. For those of you that are familiar with that, basically what these authors did, or what this author did, is they group all of the terms. So there'll be terms of like negation, there'll be terms of affirmation, there'll be pronouns, there'll be different categories of these words, and basically you go through these word lists. And you memorize these one section at a time, and then what they do is like they'll actually have a page from the Mus'haf. They'll have a page from the Quran, and there'll be a line, and then there'll be a blank line. There'll be Arabic, and there'll be a blank line, and they'll highlight the words, and they'll say, translate these words. And then when you memorize those words, you go to that section, you start filling it in. You go to the next section, you memorize some more words, and there'll be another exercise, and now you start filling this in with the previous words that you had as well. And then so on and so forth. And what happens is by the time an individual gets to the end of this book, they'll realize, like, man, I can actually understand large sections of the Quran, not the entirety of it, right? So I think so for example, when you get to Surah Adiyat, right, that's the only time many of those terms are used in the Quran, right? It's like a singular use in the Quran. But if you go through many of the longer surah, especially at Tiwal al-Sabah, right? It's like, so if you go through the 7 longer surahs, you'll find the amount of repetition, and there's a lot of familiarity in the terms that are used, and I get a general grasp and understanding of what those terms are. I also understand a little bit of what conjugation looks like. So when I say I'm going, or he's going, or they're going, all right, how does that change the verb? And if I understand the root verb, how does that give me understanding to what the idea that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is presenting or talking about here? So this is my suggestion for everyone. I think that even if a person does this infrequently, between 6 months and a year, they'll have a good grasp of the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, if you want to go beyond that, it takes time. Like we're talking about time, we're talking about dedication. I will say for myself, I went to a program, it was basically تعليم اللغة العربية لغير الناطقين بها. So it was Arabic for non-native speakers. The unique thing about such a program is that they would introduce concepts to us very much like the 80% thing, but basically it would be like fil bayt. So what are the things that you see in a house, and because these are the things that you're familiar with, that you already know how to translate some of those terms. Fil matar, like how things look in an airport. Fil mustashfa, how things look in a hospital. Because we're familiar with a lot of these concepts and a lot of these ideas, and having that theme-based or topic-based introduction to terminology, you start building vocabulary. But that program, we used to sit from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. every day for 4 semesters. It was a 2-year program. It was very intensive, and that was just one class, right? That was kitaba. We had other classes, so we would study hadith, very simple hadith. We would study tafsir, very simple tafsir. We would do very simple nusus, where we would do some we would do some qasa'id, and we would do some nathar, and we would do some shi'r, where they would have us memorize certain sections, again, to increase our vocabulary. But if you're looking to have that level of conversational Arabic and a better grasp of reading I would say simpler books, I won't say simple, but simpler books in Arabic, that is a long-term project. That's not something that is going to happen overnight. And if you're willing to give that dedication, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will definitely open the doors for that. But it requires time. And I'm not here to be dishonest with anyone. I think it's very important to help create those standards. But if you're just looking for that introductory phase, I think that is open. Honestly, I truly believe that is open to everyone, and anyone can do it. And not just that, if you decide to go into this level 2, you already have a good base vocabulary because you've memorized a lot of these terms from the Quran. And if you make it a point to be like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to keep engaging the Quran, and even those individual instances and uses, I'm going to start memorizing those words too. It will only increase and it will only better your vocabulary. So I think that's a good gateway into that. And then you have longer programs. You have programs in Egypt, you have programs in Morocco, you have programs and now somebody had just sent me, there's a full scholarship for people who want to study in Oman. I think Kuwait had a program, if I remember. Qatar has a program as well. But there are a lot of programs. Jordan has programs as well. There's different ma'ahid, there are different institutes that offer programs who want to study, for people who want to study Arabic. It requires time though, right? So you're going to be giving a year, you're going to be giving it 2 years to whatever it is. And then after that, you can decide on how it is you want to progress in your studies. Do I want to be able to study religious subjects? Do I want to study secular subjects? Do I want to, even if I study religious subjects, do I want to be able to read? Do I want to be able to engage? Do I want to be able to write myself? Right? All of these require different skill sets. All of these require different academic tools. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us tawfiq.